In February 2026, a Tennessee farmer named Charles Hayes loaded 10 John Deere tractors onto trailers. He had run green paint for decades. The dealer he grew up with had his family's name on a plaque in their showroom. Then, Charles Hayes drove away and bought a fleet of Massey Fergusons instead. He was not the only one that month. Kent Har-Wool Son, 4,200 acres, traded 11 John Deere tractors for 6 Massey Fergusons in March. Another operator walked away from 4 paid-off John Deere 8R units to buy 3 Massey Ferguson 8S models. The price gap is roughly $30,000 per equivalent tractor. The story is the same in every case. Hit subscribe. We are going to walk through exactly how this happened. Walk into any Iowa farm auction today and look at the lot. Count the late model 8R and 9R units sitting under the tarps. Look at Ritchie Brothers. Look at Big Iron. Look at the green paint sitting there with hours that would have been impossible to find 10 years ago. This is not because farmers suddenly forgot what John Deere means. If you have farmed in the Corn Belt for 30 years, you have seen this. You have watched families who bled green for generations start asking questions they would not even say out loud at the co-op in 2015. Questions about parts. Questions about software. Questions about why a machine that cost more than a house still needed permission from a laptop to keep running. The 4020 your grandfather ran for 15,000 hours is not the X9 your dealer sold you last year. That sentence is the whole wound. John Deere was founded in 1837. Moline, Illinois, became more than a headquarters. It became a symbol. The 6R, 7R, 8R, and 9R lineup became the ladder a farmer climbed as his acreage grew. You started with used equipment. You bought something bigger. You traded up. You built equity. The local dealer knew your father, your brother, and the farm kid you hired during harvest. However, somewhere between that old dealer counter and the current corporate machine, the relationship changed. The farmer was still loyal. The company was not. Charles Hayes is the first warning sign. The Tennessee case, documented in YouTube coverage this year, was not a one-tractor protest buy. It was 10 John Deere tractors leaving a farm that had run green paint for decades. That matters because a man who owns 10 tractors is not shopping for a decal. He is moving an operating system. 10 tractors means attachments, service habits, parts inventory, mechanics who know the machines, and a lifetime of assumptions built into every maintenance decision. Changing brands at that scale hurts. So when Charles Hayes did it, the question was not whether Massey Ferguson had won a sale. The question was what John Deere had done to make the old customer willing to eat the pain. But the Har-Wool Son case is where the story turns from pricing into power. Kent Har-Wool Son ran 4,200 acres. According to the YouTube documented case study, he traded 11 John Deere tractors for 6 Massey Fergusons in March 2026. That is not a hobby farm moving a compact tractor. That is a serious operation, saying the numbers no longer worked. The number being repeated by farmers around this story is $30,000 per equivalent tractor. 1 tractor, $30,000. 6 tractors, $180,000. 11 tractors, $330,000. That is not pocket change. That is seed. That is chemical. That is a used service truck. That is the difference between replacing iron and stretching a tired fleet another season. However, the price gap is only the surface. A farmer can swallow price if the support is there. A farmer can pay more if uptime is real. A farmer can justify green paint if the dealer answers the phone and the parts counter treats him like a customer. That is why the reported parts retaliation, after Har-Wool Son switched, hit so hard. The case study says that after he traded the John Deere tractors, dealers reportedly stopped selling him parts for his remaining John Deere equipment. Not for Massey Ferguson equipment. For the green machines he still owned. That allegation is the kind of thing that travels faster than a sales brochure. Because every farmer hearing it thinks the same thing. If they can do that to him, they can do that to me. That was the moment this stopped being a brand comparison and became a warning flare. A dealership relationship used to be built on mutual dependence. The farmer needed parts. The dealer needed loyalty. But dealer consolidation changed that balance. Through the 2010s and the 2020s, independent John Deere dealers were absorbed into multi-state dealership groups. The family name came off the sign. The decision-maker moved farther away. The man behind the parts counter may still care, but the policy above him has a different purpose. That purpose is control. A 1,000-acre to 5,000-acre farmer sits right in the trap. Big enough to need late-model equipment, small enough that every repair bill bites. Big enough to be told he needs the technology package, small enough that losing one planting day can break the year. That farmer is not buying nostalgia. He is buying uptime. However, the pricing model started treating him like a captive account. The betrayal did not come all at once. It came through the dealer invoice. It came through parts that cost more than they should. It came through service calls that needed a laptop. It came through the subscription mindset around JD-Link, connectivity, remote diagnostics, and precision features. Even when Deere called some connectivity free, the signal was still clear. The machine was becoming a toll road. The farmer bought the tractor, but the company kept the gate. This channel is going to keep pulling on threads the manufacturers do not want pulled. If the Iron Acre angle is the kind of farm journalism you want more of, the farmer tier gets you early access to every video before it goes public, plus a member badge on every comment so the regulars know you are in. Find it under the channel page, the join button next to subscribe. Now, back to the next reveal. By the spring of 2022, another operator had already seen the math before the rest of the market wanted to admit it. The YouTube documented case says he walked away from 4 paid-off John Deere 8R tractors and bought 3 Massey Ferguson 8S models. Paid-off tractors. That phrase matters. Paid-off iron is supposed to be sacred. It is the equipment that lets a farmer breathe. It lowers the note. It gives the farm room when corn prices soften and interest rates climb. A local grain elevator manager reportedly called the move financial suicide. That is exactly how brand loyalty polices itself in farm country. It does not need a corporate memo. It runs through coffee talk, shop counters, seed meetings, and auction rings. A farmer leaves green paint, and people assume he lost his mind. However, 2 years later, that move looks less like suicide and more like an early read on the market. The third operator saw what Charles Hayes and Kent Harul's son would later make visible. He saw the difference between owning equipment and being managed by equipment. He saw what happens when late-model tractors carry premium prices, software constraints, and dealer dependency at the same time. Massey Ferguson did not have to be perfect. It just had to be good enough, available enough, and priced low enough to expose how much green loyalty was costing. That is the part Moline should have feared. Massey Ferguson is not some mystery brand that wandered in from the edge of the lot. It is an old name inside a modern corporate structure. Today, Massey Ferguson is AGCO's volume brand. AG.CO is an American-headquartered company based in Duluth, Georgia. It was founded in 1990 through a leveraged buyout of Deutz Alice, which means its roots run straight through one of the old American equipment bloodlines. AGCO owns Massey Ferguson. AGCO owns the Fendt brand, the premium tractor line built in Bavaria. AGCO owns Valtra, the Finnish tractor brand. AGCO owns Heston, the American hay equipment name. AGCO owns Gleaner, the American combine name. That ownership reveal matters because the John Deere sales pitch often leans on identity. American farmers are told green paint is the safe American choice. But the company competing for those fleet trades is not a nameless foreign outfit. AGCO is headquartered in Georgia. Its chief executive officer is Eric Hansotia. Its brand portfolio includes American names that have been parked in American sheds for generations. Massey Ferguson tractors are assembled at Jackson, Minnesota, and at Beau VEH, France, along with other global plants. That also matters in 2026, because the tariff conversation is not theoretical. Massey Ferguson includes more United States assembled units, which partially insulates the brand from the 15% European export tariff pressure that hits AGCO's Fendt brand and Valtra harder. So, the red tractor on the lot is not just a cheaper tractor. It is a different corporate bet. The Massey Ferguson 8S series sits right in the range these farmers care about. It is AGCO's mid-range row crop platform, built around the 2 to 100 horsepower class, with the 8S 265 at the top of the line in the common lineup farmers are talking about. It is not trying to be a 9R. It is not trying to replace every high horsepower need on every acre in America. However, for the middle of the fleet, where planters, grain carts, tillage tools, and utility horsepower overlap, it gives a farmer a way out. That way out becomes dangerous when the premium brand has started to feel less premium and more extractive. John Deere still has scale. Industry estimates put Deere at roughly 53% of the United States large ag tractor market in 2024. That kind of share gives a company pricing power, dealer power, software power, and emotional power. Green paint is still everywhere. It will not disappear because 3 case studies went viral. But market share can hide rot for a long time. International Harvester did not vanish because farmers woke up one morning and decided red was bad. Brands fail slowly, then all at once, when the people who defended them stop defending them. The 30-year customer is the leading indicator because he knows the old product, the old dealer, the old bargain, and the old promise. When that man leaves, he is not guessing. He is testifying. The exposure section begins with the court record. On January 15th, 2025, the Federal Trade Commission sued Deere & Company over repair restrictions. The complaint accused Deere of using unfair practices that increased repair costs and limited farmers' ability to make timely repairs on equipment they owned. By June 12, 2025, Deere's effort to dismiss the case had been denied. That timeline matters because it matches what farmers had already been saying in machine sheds for years. The lawsuit did not create the anger. It validated it. Deere has argued that it supports customer repair and that the complaint misrepresents the facts. That is the corporate defense. But the farmer's lived experience is not written by a press office. It is written in downtime. If a tractor is down during planting, the field does not care whether the software policy sounds reasonable in a legal filing. If a combine is sitting during harvest, the crop does not care whether the repair tool has a customer-friendly name. If a dealer laptop is the difference between running and sitting, the ownership question gets very simple. Who really controls the machine? That is why the John C. May number lands so hard. John C. May, John Deere's chief executive officer, received total compensation of $27.8 million for 2024. $27.8 million. A farmer does not need to hate success to understand the insult. American farmers built Deere's empire. They bought the iron. They defended the brand. They paid the invoices. They taught their sons and daughters that green paint held value for a reason. But when the chief executive officer is paid like a Wall Street trophy, and the farmer is told a diagnostic function has to run through the authorized system, the emotional contract breaks. This is where the villain is not the mechanic. It is not the salesman who still answers calls after supper. It is not the parts guy trying to find a sensor before the courier leaves. The villain is the corporate layer that looked at the most loyal customers in American agriculture and saw recurring revenue. Bean counters and Moline ran the engineers out of the room. The Harvard Business School language moved in. The tractor became a platform. The platform became a service relationship. The service relationship became a margin target. That may sound smart on an investor call. It sounds different when a farmer is standing in a shop at midnight with a dead machine and weather coming. However, this is also where the European brands split into 2 lanes. Massey Ferguson is the volume option. It is the practical wedge. The tractor a farmer can justify because the number is lower, the horsepower is right, and AGCO's right to repair posture sounds closer to what farmers have been demanding. AGCO has publicly supported farmers' right to repair their equipment, including access to information and tools to maintain, diagnose, and repair machines through its customer diagnostic resources. That does not make AGCO a charity. It makes AGCO a competitor smart enough to hear where Deere left the door open. The premium lane is AGCO's Fendt brand, the Fendt tractor, built in Bavaria. That machine is not trying to be cheap. The Fendt tractor, built in Bavaria, is the high-end European answer for farmers who still want refinement, fuel efficiency, and the VAH Rio gearbox experience that made the brand famous. For American farmers, that creates a new map. Massey Ferguson attacks the middle of the Deere fleet. AGCO's Fendt brand attacks the premium perception. Both sit under the same American headquartered parent. That is the part John Deere cannot laugh off. For years, the European threat was easy to dismiss in American row crop country. Too far away. Too expensive. Dealer network too thin. Parts too uncertain. Good tractor. Wrong market. However, Deere's own decisions made the market more open. When local dealers consolidated, the old support advantage weakened. When pricing climbed, the premium gap became painful. When repair access turned into a national legal fight, the trust advantage cracked. A farmer who once would have said he would never run anything but green is now asking a different question. What exactly am I paying extra for? If the answer is uptime, the parts counter better prove it. If the answer is resale, the auction lot better prove it. If the answer is loyalty, the company better prove it. Right now, late model 8R and 9R tractors are showing up at Ritchie Brothers and Big Iron in numbers that make farmers stop scrolling. That does not mean Deere is finished. Deere still builds serious machinery. Deere still has engineers who know agriculture. Deere still has dealers that take care of people the right way. But the old spell is broken. The farmer who left John Deere did not betray the brand. The brand changed the deal. Charles Hayes did not wake up in Tennessee and forget decades of history. Kent Harrell's son did not trade 11 tractors because he wanted attention. The third operator did not walk away from 4 paid-off 8R units because he was bored. They moved because the numbers, the dealer relationship, and the repair culture all pointed the same direction. Green paint had become too expensive to trust blindly. Red paint had become good enough to test seriously. That is the real brand-by-brand reveal. Massey Ferguson is not winning because every farmer suddenly wants to be different. AGCO is winning those conversations because John Deere trained its own customers to look for alternatives. AGCO's Fendt brand is waiting above that, offering the premium European option for the farmer who still wants the high-end machine, but no longer believes Deere deserves the automatic first call. And Deere's problem is not that one man in Tennessee switched. The problem is that thousands of farmers understand why he did. That is how a market changes. Quietly at first. One neighbor notices a tractor in the yard. One mechanic asks how it has been. One banker sees the payment difference. One auction, regular watches, late model green units soften. One parts story moves across 3 counties before lunch. By the time Wall Street sees it in a quarterly report, farm country has already known for 2 years. And one last thing. The Farmstead Owner tier gets you the members-only videos, where we go deeper into the lawsuits, the dealer testimony, and the parts John Deere has quietly pulled from public discussion. It is the closest thing to inside-the-room reporting this channel produces. Find it under the Join button. The American farm equipment market in 2030 will not be a world where every farmer runs red, or every farmer runs AGCO's Fendt brand, or every farmer gives up on John Deere. That is not how agriculture works. But it may be a world where green paint has to earn the sale again. A world where the 30-year customer is no longer taken for granted. A world where the tractor brand that wins is not the one with the loudest marketing department, but the one that answers the phone, sells the part, opens the repair path, and remembers who built the empire in the first place.